Hello, this is Lazarus at telecomTech, where telecom and networking technologies are simply explained. Today we'll be simply explaining the OSPF DR BDR election. Take a look at my free 27-page career roadmap for network and telecom professionals. It will help you to make decisions concerning the next steps to level up your career. It's free at my website at the link below. And also, if you like what you see, subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon. Now let's get back to the OSPF DR BDR election process. In a previous video, we talked about the DR and BDR roles in a multi-access network segment. We talked about why these roles exist and how they operate. What we didn't talk about is how OSPF chooses which router will play each role. We didn't talk about the DR BDR election process. Now, this was done purposefully so we can see the operation of these roles separately from the election process. Now that we understand what they do, why they are necessary, and what problems they solve, let's talk about how they are elected. When we have multiple OSPF routes in a single broadcast domain or network segment like this one, OSPF will begin an election process to determine which of these routers will play the role of the DR and the BDR. A DR-BDR election will always take place between OSPF routers that are on the same subnet. So how are the DR and BDR elected? When OSPF routers initially exchange hello messages, they include information that is used to elect the DR and BDR. Specifically, the router with the highest priority value is chosen as the DR, and the router with the second highest priority value is chosen as the BDR. The priority is a value that is configured on the interface that is connected to the network segment in question. By default, the priority value is set to 1 on OSPF routers. The priority can have a value between 0 and 255. A value of 0 simply says to the rest of the topology that this router will never become a DR or a BDR. If the priority is equal, then the router with the highest router ID is chosen as the DR, and the second highest router ID becomes the BDR. The router ID will always be a tiebreaker because the router ID must be unique in the OSPF domain, and we've already seen how the router ID is defined. So in this topology here, which router will become the DR and which will become the BDR? The first thing that we see is that this router here has a priority of 100, which is the highest priority of all the routers. So this would become the DR in this topology. Then we have 3 routers with a priority of 1. So that's a tie. The highest router ID would then be used, so this router would become the BDR. The rest of the routers become DR others. Notice also that this router here has a priority of 0, so it will never become a DR or a BDR. Now, another important question concerning the election process is, when does an election actually take place? In other words, what triggers an election? An election will take place when the OSPF process is initialized on all routers. This is when the topology is initially turned on and OSPF adjacencies are initially created. An election will also be triggered if the OSPF process is manually reset on the DR or the BDR. If you go in and restart the OSPF process, or even if you reboot that particular router. And of course, it will take place if the DR or BDR fail. An election will not be triggered if a new router with a higher priority or higher router ID is added to the topology. And also, an election will not be triggered if you modify the priority or the router ID of a particular OSPF router to make it higher than the current DR or BDR. Now, this behavior of the OSPF election can be described like so. OSPF elections are not preemptive. That means that if you have a stable OSPF topology and the DR and BDR have already been elected, if they are functioning correctly, no change in priorities or router IDs will change that. OSPF elections do not occur preemptively. This is done by design in order to maintain stability and to avoid unnecessary reconvergence and network topology churn. Now, another important aspect of this election process is that it will take place on any multi-access network, even if there are only two routers connected. So if you have a topology like this one, where one router is connected to another directly via Ethernet, there will still be a DR-BDR election. One router will become the DR, the other will become the BDR, and there will be no DR other routers. However, if you have a point-to-point network, such as one over a serial link like this, then no DR-BDR election will take place. What determines whether an election will take place? It is the OSPF network type. When Ethernet is used, the default OSPF network type is broadcast, which allows multiple OSPF routers to share the same network segment. In such a scenario, DR and BDR elections occur to manage LSA flooding and adjacency formation efficiently. But when a serial link is used, the default OSPF network type is point-to-point, which is designed for only two OSPF routers on the link. Since there is no need to manage multiple neighbors, no DR or BDR election takes place on point-to-point links. We'll talk more about network types for OSPF in a future video. But before we end off, I'd like to mention one more thing that is often confusing for those learning about OSPF. A DR-BDR election takes place on a per network segment basis and not on a per OSPF area basis. That means that within a topology like this one, assuming all links are Ethernet links, we will have a DR-BDR election for each of these network segments. Additionally, this means that a DR-BDR election will take place on a per interface basis as well. So a single OSPF router, such as this one here, will actually participate in 4 different DR-BDR elections. That has some interesting implications that we must be aware of. For example, it is thus possible for a single router to become a DR, a BDR, and a DR other at the same time, but simply on different network segments. As you can see here, this router has become a DR on this network segment, a BDR on this one, and a DR other on this one. So DR-BDR elections take place on a per network segment basis. For now, I hope you found this video useful, and if you have, please click that thumbs up button. Please check out my website and subscribe to my newsletter. You'll find the links in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get updates to newly published videos. I'm Lazarus at telecomTech. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I'd like to thank you for watching.